The long-standing Arab presence in Israel is used as a basis to prove that Israel stole the land from the Arabs. However, for over 3,000 years, the Jews have had a continuous presence in Israel, and throughout that time, Jews in exile have always identified Israel as their homeland. At the same time, Israel recognizes the claim that the Palestinians make on this land. However, the Palestinians have to recognize that the Jews have a legitimate claim on the land as well.
The United Nations, the League of Nations, all affirmed Israel's right to a Jewish state in Israel. And it's been affirmed by recognition by virtually all the countries of the world, certainly the Western countries of the world. Israel's the only country that has ever been established purely legally by legal means. The Jews who came to Israel didn't come with rifles. They didn't come bearing the flags of colonialist countries. They didn't come on behalf of Poland or Lithuania. They came because they escaped from Poland and Lithuania. They came not with guns, but with rakes and hoes. Israel was established completely lawfully, unlike the United States of America by revolution, unlike so many other countries by bloodshed. Israel was established by law.
As we saw in Class 1, Jewish immigrants did not steal land. They cultivated previously uninhabited areas on the sand dunes of the coastal plain or the swampy land around the Galilee area, and this land was purchased in many cases for above market prices.
They turned the swamps into orange groves. They ridded the country of malaria. They built the country with their own hands. Without Jews, there would be no Israel. Indeed, without Jews, there'd be no Palestine. The best thing that ever happened to the people of that area was Jewish immigration and the Jewish presence that has lasted for more than 3,000 years.
When we address the legality of Israel controlling the West Bank and Gaza Strip, it is important to remember that the violence against Israel from its Arab neighbors did not begin after Israel's action in 1967. And so it is hard to believe the claim that the occupation of land since 1967 is the cause of the conflict. On the contrary, Israel was forced to act in 1967 because of the continuous onslaught against it. The areas gained by Israel in 1967 were taken in a defensive war and not as a result of an unprovoked Israeli attack. Under international law, as outlined in the Geneva Conventions, a land can only be occupied by attacking and overcoming a sovereign nation. But Israel did not instigate an attack in 1967 against a sovereign nation. Instead, in self-defense, Israel took control of territory that was not under the sovereign rule of any country. These territories were never part of a sovereign Palestinian nation, as no nation ever existed. Egypt never claimed Gaza as part of Egypt, and the entire international community, aside from England, never recognized Jordanian sovereignty in the West Bank. On top of that, both Jordan and Egypt have long since rescinded any claim to these lands. Therefore, Israel claims that under international law, these territories are not illegally occupied. In fact, Israel asserts that its continued presence in the West Bank is sanctioned by Resolution 242.
When the United Nations adopted UN Security Council Resolution 242 in 1967, it didn't call on Israel to get up and leave the West Bank. It suggested, along with another resolution called Resolution 338, that Israel negotiate with its neighbors future borders to replace the old 1949 armistice lines from which Israel was attacked. As long as there is no effective negotiation underway to bring about a resolution of the territorial differences between Israel and its Arab neighbors, there is no requirement of Israel to leave the West Bank.
Still, Israel has offered to withdraw from these territories, though not all the territories.
The UN Security Council did not require Israel to withdraw from all the territories that it had captured in a war of self-defense. In fact, the UN Security Council adopted UN Security Council Resolution 242, which called for a withdrawal from territories, not from all the territories as the Soviet Union had originally demanded.
Israel has actually offered the Palestinians more than 98% of the land the Palestinians lay claim to. This is an unprecedented move, as Israel is the only country in modern history to offer, in exchange for peace, giving up critical strategic territory captured in a defensive war and crucial to its own self-defense. It is worth mentioning that these areas that Israel took in 1967 have deep Jewish roots. Jewish communities lived in the West Bank and Gaza well before Israel's founding in 1948. Hebron in the West Bank is the most ancient Jewish city in the world.
Hebron is more important to Jews than Jerusalem is to Muslims, without any doubt, or than Jerusalem is to Christians, without any doubt. Hebron appears in the Bible numerous times, as does Jerusalem. It never appears in the Quran.
In terms of Jerusalem itself, Jerusalem was split when the Jordanians took East Jerusalem under control in 1948. Israeli forces united Jerusalem in 1967, allowing its Arab population to remain and offering them Israeli citizenship.
There's a mistaken impression in many academic and intellectual circles that Jerusalem is essentially an Arab city, and therefore part of any resolution to the Arab-Israel conflict will require Israel to pull out of that Arab city called Jerusalem and give it over to the Palestinians, and that way we will resolve the problem. The historical facts are completely different.
In 1844, the first authoritative Turkish census of the Holy Land found the Jews were the largest ethnic group in the city of Jerusalem. In 1889, the British Consul General estimated that 2/3 of Jerusalem was Jewish, and in 1947, when the United Nations sat down to partition Palestine, 85% of the city of Jerusalem was Jewish.
Even before there was a state of Israel, the Jews wanted a solution that would satisfy both parties' claim to the land of Israel. Israel has accepted every internationally sponsored plan that has been devised to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict from 1937 onwards. When Arabs want to make peace, Israel has always been there as a partner. Israel wants to agree on borders that assure a safe Israel and a viable Palestinian state.